So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Vickie Lyon. You're more than welcome. Don't worry about anything. You do your thing.
I can show you a picture of my daughter. No.
No, right
The
here.
big one.
Yup, here, I'll take this. You don't worry about anything. You do what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. On November 17th, 2001, my daughter Nikki was killed by an illegal alien. She was driving home from work where she got to work overtime. She was so happy because she was using this overtime to buy Christmas gifts for her children, ages 4 and 14 months. She left my house at 12:30 in the afternoon after picking the children up, and she was pronounced dead at 12:52, which was what, 22 minutes later. My grandchildren, as was said, was in the car. Brianna was 4 years old. She was dead at the scene. Thank God for some wonderful EMTs who decided to do what they call a snatch and grab. Brianna was already blue. Her brain was showing or seeing the light of day. The bones in her legs were sticking through her skin. She had a heart attack. She had a lacerated liver and was bleeding internally. Brandon was 14 months old. He was in a car seat, which saved his life. He had minor injuries, a bump on the head, bump on both of his knees, and where the seat belts held him, it just ripped the skin down to the meat, and it was awful looking, and it took weeks, probably 6 to 8 weeks for it to heal. Both children were airlifted into Orlando Regional Medical Center, which is a 5-point trauma center, which is the best in the Central Florida. Brianna was rushed into emergency surgery to repair her skull, which was split from here all the way around. Many of you have seen her pictures. And she had, the next day, they were so concerned about the length of time she was in the operating room that they could not repair her leg. And also in a child that small, they don't stop the bleeding, which her liver was, she was bleeding internally, and they let the liver heal itself. It does regenerate in a small child. So she stayed 2 more days and then had surgery on her leg. And to this day, she has epilepsy. She still walks with a limp. But this child is amazing. She graduated high school with a 4.0. She got every award that the state of Tennessee could award her. She's in college for nursing, and she is just the strongest child you would ever hope to meet. I mean, she just has a tenacity about her that is amazing. My little Brandon, he's just turned 18 and graduated from high school, and he was an honor student. He was in ROTC for 4 years. He's getting ready to attend St. Leo's University, where after he finishes there, he hopes to have a career in the Navy in cyber technology. And I'm just amazed at how well these children are growing up and how well-rounded they are. The reason I waited so many years to come and speak about Nikki's tragedy was I wanted these children to be able to grow up in love and have a solid foundation of an education and what family they had left around them to love on them. I wanted them to be able to understand the death of their mother and what happened, and for them to give me the permission to share their story as well as their mother's, and as well Brianna's very graphic and brutal hospital pictures. The illegal alien that killed Nikki, he was drunk, he was high on cocaine, he was driving on the wrong side of the road, he had driven about 5 cars off prior to hitting Nikki head on. She had nowhere to go. He literally ran over my baby's body. Every bone in her body was crushed except her left hand. Her car door was about this big, where he hit her in a huge pickup truck, and she was in a little Honda. He was ejected from the truck. He had 2 broken legs. He was taken to the hospital where he was cared for. He needed rehabilitation to learn to walk. They put him in a rehab. His family come in the middle of the night and took him out. We have no idea where he is. We have no fingerprints. We have no pictures. The only thing we have is a blood alcohol level. And I blame, unfortunately, Florida Highway Patrol because they didn't want to deal with Mexico. I wish that we had the wonderful sheriffs that's been here today and law enforcement that's been here today and understands our problems and what we have gone through. And maybe this killer would not be at large. And he's probably back here in the States. Every year on the anniversary of Nikki's death, I call Florida Highway Patrol and I remind them they have to go to their archives to find the report on my daughter. Had I not squawked loud enough, or as they say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, they would not even have filed charges against him. They did and gave him a $10,000 bond, which means my daughter's life to the state of Florida was worth $1,000. $1,000 was what my daughter's life was worth, and plus what happened to my grandchildren. What people don't understand is, after we adopted our grandchildren, I spent years in Brianna's rehabilitation. She would have seizures. She would have nights where they were constant, maybe 200 a night. She had to be at doctors every day, and we lived about 2 hours away from Orlando, where I would have to take her, some days 5 days a week. Please don't take it that that was not a labor of love, because it was, and I would do it all over again for the health that she has today and what she is accomplishing in her life. But what happens is, what people don't understand is, after everybody leaves from the funeral and after everybody sends the balloons for the babies and brings a cupcake, you're there alone. You're there alone. You have the medical bills. You have the legal bills. You have the tragedy of all of it that still goes. My husband and I had to file bankruptcy. We lost our house. And people just don't understand how far-reaching this is. It will never, ever stop. This will follow my children and their children and their children, if God so allows it, the rest of our lives, as it will all of these angel families. I get so tired of hearing, oh, you're separating families, and they parade these little children in as, don't deport my mommy, don't deport my daddy. What about us? What about the permanent separation that we will have the rest of our life? What about our children and our grandchildren? My mother had a heart attack when she heard of Nikki's death. That was what happened. That was another situation that people don't understand. You know, you have to tell grandparents, you have to tell older people, these things happen. I also want to say, since I'm here with this backdrop, I became angry and I called everybody. I called the White House. I called DOJ. I called ICE. Now you got to remember, this is 17 years ago. I called every senator, every congressman in the state of Florida. I got a hold of Bill Nelson. After telling him the short version of what happened, he said to me, "Lady, what exactly would you like me to do about it?" Okay, take my breath away, and I said, Well, if it was your daughter, you would know what to do about it. And I hung up the phone. Then the word got back to the...
Not long.
Pardon?
And he's still in office.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to tell you.
Yep.
His son has probably been caught drunk driving 4 or 5 times. Has he spent one day in jail? No. Why? Because his daddy works right over here. That's exactly why. Now, if he kills somebody, then what? He gets away with it. He'll get away with it again because daddy will pull strings. But they didn't care about my daughter laying in a grave. They didn't care about my grandchildren. And they don't care about yours. Because it's all about money and votes. And I would like to say this about being permanently separated, going back to where they say, oh, you're going to deport our mommies and daddies and everything. They can stand at the Rio Grande and they can yell across, hi mom, hi dad. They can pick a phone up and they can call their children. Can you call Brandon? Can you call? Laura? Neither can I. And I would love to hear my daughter's voice one more time. So I want to thank you all for listening, and I want to thank you all for being here for us. We need every one of your help. We ask you to get the word out. Go to your politicians. Tell them your story. Show them your emotion. Don't be afraid to cry. They need to see this. They need to see how awful our separation is. It's permanent. It's forever. We will never see him here on this earth again. And I want to say we have such a wonderful president. He has stood with us while he was a candidate. He has embraced us. And all of the politicians that were here today, God bless every one of them for fighting for us. We thank them. All the sheriffs, thank you so much. And I want to say God bless everyone, and God bless this United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you, Vickie. Thank you so much.